Suppose that all worlds, all universes, met in a single nexus, a single pylon, a tower, a stairway perhaps, to the Godhead itself. Would you dare, gunslinger? Could it be that somewhere above all of endless reality there exists a room? The man in black, the gunslinger. So we've had our little conversation about the Dark Tower series written by Stephen King. We've also talked about the monstrous man known as Randall Flagg, who is known by many other names, whose goal is to bring ruin to civilizations wherever he may find them. Then we talked about many others who dwelt in the worlds created by Cy King, including the heroic Jack Sawyer, the kindly John Coffey, as well as the abominable It, also known as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Now though, it's time to talk about the Dark Tower, the superstructure that binds them all together. Hi, hello, and welcome again everybody to another episode of Natural Juan. This time around we're going to discuss the world, or many worlds, created by the master of horror himself, Stephen King, which is all bound to the Dark Tower, which is thought to sit at the heart of the multiverse, keeping reality intact against the monsters and forces beyond. Before all that though, I'd like to invite you all to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications for more content like this. Also, if you would like to support my channel and what I do here, you may check out my Patreon, PayPal, and Gcash information in the description below. Special shout out too to Mr. Jonathan Green, my patron in Patreon. With all that out of the way, it's time to make our way up the Dark Tower. The Dark Tower, as already mentioned, is thought to sit at the heart of the multiverse. Similar perhaps in many ways to the infinitely tall tower upon whose very top sits the City of Doors in Dungeons & Dragons. But that will be a discussion for another day. Anyway, the Dark Tower is said to be bound to all the infinite worlds created by Stephen King, and destroying it, as the evil Crimson King plans, would destroy all creation as we know it. But just what is the Dark Tower? Who built it? How was it built? More importantly, can it be destroyed? These are questions that we will try to answer in this episode as we explore the various worlds that touch upon the Dark Tower. First though, before we go into the lore surrounding the Dark Tower, we first need to discuss the forces that are associated with it. The foremost of these would be Gan, a possible analog to God worshipped by Abrahamic faiths, and may in fact just be another aspect of him. In fact, in many other stories such as Desperation and Salem's Lot, the god the heroes pray to can be easily equated with or represented by Gan. That said, very little is mentioned about Gan throughout the books by Stephen King, and the only complete statements that we get about him is that he rose out of the waters of the chaotic ocean known as the Prim, and created the universe through his navel. He is said to have empowered characters throughout many of King's works, being the one who gave power to the Losers Club in It after the Great Turtle had apparently died, and Ralph Roberts in Insomnia when he must confront the supernatural menace that was Alecto. Most important of all though is that the Dark Tower itself is thought to be a physical manifestation of Gan himself, and destroying it would be tantamount to unmaking the universe itself. Also of note is that the Stephen King found in the books, not the writer himself mind you, is believed to be an avatar or perhaps prophet of Gan, who tells the tale of Roland the Gunslinger in order to protect the tower. The next thing to be discussed is Ka, which, when translated from the high speech of Midworld, can be best understood as fate, destiny, or, better yet, doom. It is said to be the will of Gan, or God, and can come suddenly, and while its effects may not always seem good at first, it eventually reveals itself to have paved the way for something good to happen, as is the case with how more religious people tend to see the concept of God's will. Ka is said to be like many things, be it the wind or a wheel, and repeating it twice makes it sound like the baby word for poop, as often joked by Eddie Dean of Roland's Quartet. Quartet, which also uses Ka as a root word, signifies a group of people who are bound together by destiny and have a kind of power between them, as is the case with the Losers of It, the Survivors of Desperation, the friends and companions of Prince Peter in Eyes of the Dragon, the men sent against Randall Flagg in Las Vegas in The Stand, and Ben Mayer's group in Salem's Lot, as well as many others. There is also the concept of Kef, which is translated loosely as life force, that is often shared by the members of a Ketet but is, in some ways, also the blessed power provided by Gan himself. There is some debate whether or not the Old Ones mentioned by Roland Deschain throughout the series were the ones who built the Dark Tower. Whatever the case, it is said that they had a hand in at least improving it. To wit, they created cyborg versions of the animal guardians, as well as the technology to uphold the beams that hold the Dark Tower up, or at least help it to stand despite the ravages of time. Unfortunately, the wars the Old Ones fought against one another ultimately led to the destruction of many of Midworld's cities and societies. In fact, it is implied that the sinister technology used by the Sombra Corporation, which secretly serves the Crimson King himself, are based on the machines built by the Old Ones, including the facilities used to destroy the beams that hold up the tower. Based on the ravaged wastelands found in Book 3 of the Dark Tower, the Old Ones used weapons that bordered on being magical or reality-breaking, as evidenced by the ruins of civilizations being populated by mutants and monsters that are difficult to describe and understand. Then there is the Crimson King himself, also called Loss, as a shout-out to William Blake, a being dedicated to destroying the Dark Tower itself. Based on the books, the Crimson King is supposed to be a godlike being that rivals the very power of Gan or God himself, making him a sort of Satan analog in the series. In the comics even, he is the hybrid son of Arthur Eld, a counterpart to King Arthur, and the Queen of Demons from the Prim, and possessed of terrifying powers including the ability to change his form into that of a giant spider. It has been stated time and time again that the Crimson King's goal is none other than to destroy the multiverse itself, so that he may reign in a realm built from its ruins. That said, his many defeats in some of the other works by Stephen King, including the destruction of the big combination from Black House, led to the Crimson King losing much of his powers and sanity. Or perhaps there is another theory that the largest and most abominable part of the Crimson King might actually be trapped in a cell in the Dark Tower itself, and that the mad human confronted by Roland might just be a weaker version of him. This is not fully revealed to either the reader or the characters, who can only speculate regarding the Crimson King's true identity. Roland Deschain and the other gunslingers mentioned in the novels belong to an ancient tradition founded by Arthur Eld, the aforementioned King Arthur analog of Allworld. It is not known just how far back this tradition stretches and whether or not it existed during the time of the Old Ones and probably wielded powerful weapons at one time. However, it's a safe bet that while its purpose of defending the Dark Tower might not have always been the same, the War Guild of Gunslingers seem to have always existed in one form or another. And even Roland himself expresses disdain at the hubris of the Old Ones and how they destroyed everything he once knew and loved. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Natural Juan. I'd also like to apologize for the fact that I don't make as many videos as I used to, and this is because work has been quite demanding as of late. That said, I will try to produce at least one video once a week, though I might not always be able to hold true to that. Suffice to say, at the minimum, I'll try to make at least 2 videos every month. Also, for a little more good news, I have found an artist so I can start putting together and reading my own stories on YouTube. Anyway, if you'd like more content like the one you just saw, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications. Also, while it's not a requirement, if you'd also like to support my channel, you'll find my Patreon, PayPal, and Gcash info in the description below. Natural Juan, out.